All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease, so on and so forth. Title forever in the works. So, the title hasn't given me away yet. DSP decided to come up out of his body for whatever reason and talk about how his audience has very short attention spans and they are very closed-minded. Now, I think that, what was that game called? Directive 8020 or whatever it was called? He basically came out and said that his audience was racist and that they might not like the game because there were black people that were in the lead, that were the leads or whatever, or minorities, whatever, and so on and so forth. That was telling, but you know, I'm not surprised by that because DSP will sell out his own audience to save himself. Even though he's helped to cultivate that audience, not even help, he did. So they're literally just a reflection of him. Imagine that. In any case, I guess someone asked him to play like a point and click or a walking sim or some bullshit, and he says that his audience isn't really there for that. He used to have an audience for it, or a viewer base, but he doesn't anymore. Well, the reality of that is, ladies and gentlemen, he's ran them off. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with like RPGs or JRPGs. At least JRPGs, at the very least, he used to have a huge audience for that. They used to carry the Patreon goals back in the day for Patron's Choice. They did that almost monthly, depending on the game that he was playing, of course. But, you know, he ran those people off. You know what I'm saying? He went ahead and wanted to prioritize quick playthroughs to try to get through shit instead of doing your Personas and other games like that. And by the time he tried to go back to the well, they were gone. They straight up left. And then he threw a hissy fit about that. And that's why he likes those games that kind of play themselves, but he's ran that audience off for various reasons, you know what I'm saying? And over the years, he's complained about, oh, I was sick, my throat hurts, I have to do all this reading, and it's getting annoying, I'm doing all this voice acting, and you guys aren't supporting, and that's early Twitch stuff, you know what I mean? So the reason why that he doesn't have that anymore, I should say, is because he didn't appreciate it when he did. End of story. As it pertains to short attention spans, excuse me, that's ironic, because when he was doing the Steam trailers for some of the indie games that they might want to watch or whatever, or want to play, I'm sorry, he might want to play, they might want to watch, he couldn't even get through those trailers. Some of those trailers are 90 seconds. He would get through 30 seconds of it and be done. Be like, yeah, I don't want to see anymore. So how are you going to talk about having a short attention span when, or them having a short attention span, I should say, and so do you? What point are you making? You know, what are you proving doing that? So, whatever. In any case, let's go ahead and dive right in and see what DSP has to say about his own audience that he can't convince to basically play the game for him while giving him boatloads of money. Okay, let's see here. Where is this video at? All right, here we go. All right, first off and foremost, as you guys know, big ups to Raw Phil. And big ups to all the Patrick Stars in the Kick chat. In DSP's chat. I'm not streaming at the moment. Oh my god, that's just fucking crazy. Alright, let's see here. And yeah, without further ado, here we go.
Oh, see, I didn't even know this. Ava Cowboy fan just tipped me $2 to explain what they were talking about. I had no clue about what they're talking about here, so hold on. Okay, so Ava Cowboy fan says Steins Gate Reboot is essentially a remake of Steins Gate from 2009. It's considered one of the best visual novels of all time. If you're into sci-fi, it's a must-play and watch. Reboot is scheduled to release later in the year. Visual novels, I'll be honest, I just don't think they're going to do very well in the modern day. I have played many visual novels over the years, including...
Yeah, it won't work for you, but don't try to discourage other people and think it won't work for somebody else. But then again, that's part of the marketing plan, though. Go ahead and say that, oh, my audience isn't going to appreciate this. These things aren't popular. Go ahead and make this blanket statement that no one can be successful to do any of this stuff. So it prevents his dents from migrating to other content creators and watching them. I mean, for those of you who've been around, you guys already know this, but that is something that he blatantly does. Like, think about when he says, I can't play this game, or I tried to play this game, but it didn't resonate with any of you, or none of you guys would support it, or whatever. He doesn't only try to bury a game that he's not interested in, but he'll try to bury that game for any other content creator either. So his dents have no reason to leave him. It's a sad and pathetic tactic. And to some degree it works and sometimes it don't, but it's really, really pathetic. It's really, really sad. But it's on brand though, so it's par for the course. I'm sure you did, but your voice acting was garbage for all those too.
However, as we know, just from this week's example,
and he drinks so much, or even back then, he was drinking so much that doing all that talking and shit was fucking up his throat. On top of the fact that he don't want to go to bed till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, of me trying Directive 80/20. Sadly, narrative-based games just don't really work well for a modern audience. A lot of people have a lot of problem just sitting there and paying attention to a narrative-based game. They're like,
see, he's like I said, he's not saying his audience. He's talking about in general. Like, listen to him when he says this.
Me trying Directive 80/20. Sadly, narrative-based games just don't really work well for a modern audience. A lot of people have a lot of problem just sitting there and paying attention to a narrative-based game. They're like, where's the action? Where's the gameplay? Like, well, it's a narrative-based game. There's going to be a slow build. There's going to be suspense. There's going to be a lot of dialogue. And people today, I hate to say it, don't have much of an attention span.
Himself included.
They're sitting there and they're like, well, if there's not things blowing up and not gameplay to excite me or hook me, I can't watch.
Now, isn't this the same tard who says that he wants his instant gratification? He wants the big payoff, and he wants it early to keep him engaged, to keep him playing? That's him, right? That was him. That was Philip Paul Burnell who said that shit, right? Okay, I just want to make sure.
And I know that sounds sad, but it's true. I used to, back in the day, be one of the guys known on the internet for his narrative-based playthrough. That was one of the big things that I did, that people thought it was one of the most special things that I ever did in content. And
that's such a pathetic thing to say. It was one of those special things I did. That's a sad statement. So sad that I'm going to bring that back.
For his narrative-based playthrough. That was one of the big things that I did, that people thought it was one of the most special things that I ever did in content, and they loved it.
The fact that he overvalues his worth to people on the online then and now is really, really pathetic. And when it shows you, like, it kind of, not low-key it does, it shows you how little he values himself. You know what I'm saying? That he has to base everything on what other people used to think of him. You know what I'm saying? Which really just says that you've gone through life with people not thinking very much of you. And it explains why he has his lack of impulse control when he gets criticized and stuff like that, and why we have the defense mechanisms like, I did nothing wrong, I did everything correct. How he's so quick to fly off the handle at the smallest critique. Why are you criticizing me? Why are you telling me I'm doing everything wrong? Why are you saying that I'm doing everything bad? It explains a lot. And it really explains why he couldn't function in a regular job without daddy's nepotism. It explains a lot.
Today, not so much. I think what it is, a couple things have happened. Number one, there was massive oversaturation of the market for narrative-based games at one point. When Telltale...
There's oversaturation in every genre of any game. In every game, truth be told. And yet people build entire channels based around a certain game or a certain type or genre of game. And they can succeed. But yet again, this goes back to this whole him trying to be this catch-all content creator, this catch-on streamer, where try to play as many games as you can, pretend like you're a fan or of any of this shit, which he's not, he's a fucking poser and a liar, draw them all in, and hope they'll stay for the rest of the slop that he's doing. He gave the game up. He'd been giving up the game for too long, and it came back to haunt him.
At their prime, they were pumping out so many games in a short period of time, it was hard to keep track or care about that many. And then you had other companies.
How does that affect you when you didn't even play the majority of those games? So what does this mean? Like, literally, what does that mean? You didn't play the majority of those games. You only played the mainstream shit, and you played it poorly. And then you try to drag the playthroughs out because they were so heavily supported in the beginning that they eventually dried up because you played them too damn long. Get to the fucking point.
Making games like Life is Strange. And then you had companies making horror-based, narrative-based games. And so many were available that they didn't feel special anymore. You know what I mean?
What kind of weird-ass gatekeeping is this? They put out so many games that they didn't feel special, so I didn't want to play them because there wasn't any demand for it because there was too many. So basically, this is what I've been trying to tell you. DSP is a gatekeeper. As long as there are options out there available, that's a negative for him. And it goes from games to other content creators to streamers to anything else. He needs everything to be small, controlled, right? Small, controlled, and digestible, basically. He doesn't need anything to be too different from anything else. It's the reason why he's so bad at fighting games. And I don't give a fuck what someone says. He's bad at fighting games. And one of the reasons why, especially the current stuff, is there's too many options. There are too many things to memorize. There's too many patterns and flowcharts to try to keep it locked down. He can't do that. And him relying on reflexes and reactions isn't working. You know what I'm saying? Like someone like Goji, big ups to Goji Tanks. Someone like Goji figured him out early, and it wasn't difficult. You know what I'm saying? Because there is no variance, there's no variety to DSP whatsoever. He plays everything the same goddamn way for the most part.
Narrative-based games, and so many were available that they didn't feel special anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a problem. Oversaturation of the market can be a big issue where people just won't care then.
Now, keep in mind, this is someone who's literally in two oversaturated markets. Think about that. The irony of that.
Because they feel like everything's too samey. I also feel that the quality of the narrative-based game decreased dramatically as a result of the oversaturation of the market, right? Like, I don't think anyone can deny, if you take a look at some of the ones that were coming out, like Game of Thrones, that game was not good. The plot was actually crappy. No characters were really likable. So it was hard to care about the game.
Because it was a cash grab based on the books in the series. You would think as someone who's a compulsive consumer, he would know that.
Right? And with all the seasons of The Walking Dead, Walking Dead Michonne spinoff, where we know Michonne was going to live because she's still on the freaking show. So with no stakes of her getting bitten or dying, why would you care about the game? You don't. And so it was way too much at the time.
So wait, I'm only supposed to care about the game with the expectation that she's going to die? I mean, not to say that he pointed out the black woman just for that. He didn't pull out anybody else, but that was a strange one, Phil. That might have not have been the best thing and shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't see you pointing at anybody else, but whatever. You know, where's Carol at? Why didn't Carol get that treatment? Oh, is that too close to mommy? Does that remind you of Linda? Oh, maybe that's what that was. Okay, I got you. And I get it too. You know what I'm saying? DSP came up at a time where, you know what I'm saying, in movies or in popular shows, the black person always goes first. So, I can kind of see why he did that.
To the point where Telltale went out of business because of it. Like, they couldn't even finish their games or finance them because they had overstretched themselves. You know, same thing with supermassive games. I do feel like Until Dawn was great, and they started strong, but then they kind of made too many horror games, and they started to feel played out. You know what I mean? And take a look at what happened with Quantic Dream. Like, they made an outstanding one with Detroit Become Human, then they disappeared, and they haven't made a game.
I don't know. I remember him talking a whole lot of shit about, you know what I'm saying, Detroit Becomes Human. I remember him talking mad shit about that game, to be honest with you. And isn't one of the leads a colored person too? So that's even more reason for DSP to be mad at that. So I don't know.
In so many years, like, no one even remembers that they exist, right? So I think we went from a situation where there was a ton of these games and they all made sense, to the point where then there was almost none of them and everyone forgot about them. So now when you go to play one, it's like, what the hell? Like, what is this? Narrative? I'm not used to watching a narrative game. I can't take it, you know? So I feel like a game like you're describing, Ava Cowboy Fan, the Steins Gate series, might very well be a great series of games that's entertaining and fun and tons of content for a player. Sadly for the viewer.
Now keep in mind, this is someone here who still hasn't even figured out what the fuck he's doing and whatnot, which is the reason why he jumps from game to game. Which all that variety streamer bullshit has come back to bite him in the ass. So his opinion means jack shit, to be honest with you. There are plenty of content creators and streamers who do narrative-based games and shit, and they're quite successful at it. Just because this mongoloid can't figure it out doesn't mean that other people do. And he's not your everyday streamer or content creator. He's an e-beggar. He's a bum. He's a loser. He's a failure. You know what I'm saying? He makes a living. He puts DoorDash on the table by begging and pleading with people every day. That's it. That's not a living. That's not a business. That's not even a life. It's barely in existence.
All right? Things have definitely changed when it comes to content. Like, people are willing to sit through long-form content that's narrative-based, but not games. You want to know what they're willing to sit through? Drama. They want to sit there and watch someone watch a dramatic story or documentary about a real-life person whose life fell apart and made tons of mistakes so they can point and laugh. That they'll watch. But they're not willing to just sit around and watch a game with a narrative that's carefully written and constructed unfold.
But I thought you said that the market's so oversaturated, so it brought down the quality of the narrative and the story and everything. Did you forget what you just said? Maybe you did.
They want to watch the
alcoholism's crazy, son.
Reality TV train wreck rather than the actual handcrafted narrative. I know that sounds sad, but that's...
And then he's trying to blame games for his failures, and he's not actually looking at himself and being like, have you ever thought that you're the problem? Which is one of the major things I've been leading up to, is he's blaming the games for being at fault for his own failure. Because he's not man enough, not to say that he's much of a man, but he's not man enough, not that he's much of a man, but he's not man enough to look at himself and realize that he's the problem. It's not the games, it's you. You know what I'm saying? It's you, you're the problem. You're the streamer, you're the entertainer. People shouldn't have to pay you to handhold you through games. That's retarded. The fuck do I need to go to you for then? That's like if I started streaming Call of Duty and shit, and then I need fucking, then I have people in the audience being like, tell me where the routes are. I'm already a bad player on my own. I don't need people to tell me routes. You know what I'm saying? It would be helpful, but that's not entertaining. It's legitimately not. And if you don't believe how bad of a Call of Duty player I am, talk to Agent Proper and whatnot. I sat down with him and had him take a look at some of my footage and shit. He'll tell you. He'll vouch for me. Pick up Agent Proper.
What's happened to human nature in the last 10 to 15 years, the average intelligence has dipped. And
yeah, you're a shining example of that.
And people just react differently to content. You know, the content that I used to put out that used to be entertaining, people don't find entertaining anymore.
Because it was never really entertaining. It was targeted to a certain demographic and whatnot. And that was it. And they eventually end up growing up and out of the bullshit. It was never good. You know what I'm saying? It was never good. It was just available. And that's just the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? You can go to your favorite detractor's favorite detractor, and they may agree, they may disagree. But that's the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? It was accessible. It was ease of accessibility. That's what it comes down to with DSP in his early days. You know what I'm saying? Early DSP was just ease of accessibility. That's all he really provided. No one loved him. No one cared about, well, maybe Gamer Nicole and a few of those random ones and shit, underage chicks. But anyway, no one really cared about him. Not like that. You know what I'm saying? Once those men and women grew up and realized that there was more to life than some racist piece of bullshit running around with his weird ass grooming tactics and shit. Once they figured out that there was more to life than some loser who has to beg for views and and help him with his Patreon so he can, not Patreon, PayPal, so he can afford games and shit, and there are other content creators who can do better and want to be better and put out the type of content and quality of content to prove that, he got squeezed out, as he should.
They'd rather just be toxic on the internet. So, sadly...
And keep in mind, DSP started his quote-unquote career online being toxic. Don't forget that.
If I were to play a Steins Gate, okay, I don't think it would work. You know, I don't think
you're smart enough to play it, to be honest with you.
Even if there was a if Danganronpa 4 released today, even though I've already played Danganronpa 1 through 3, and all those playthroughs did well, I would bet Danganronpa 4 would tank if I tried to play it today, just because things have changed. You know what I'm saying?
So I can only be successful, or I would be more successful than I currently am if everything stayed the way it was. Yikes, Phil. That's a sad admission. I gotta tell you, that's tough. That's one of those things that you don't admit in public, Phil. You shouldn't say stuff like that online. Not a smart move.
I'm just being honest. And that's not me. That's not my content. That's the viewing audience has changed.
Oh, wow. So it's not my fault that you fuckheads won't give me money and won't support me and shower me with your disability checks and your fucking SSI checks and shit, and then whatever paychecks that you guys can act for whatever jobs you guys can actually hold. It's not my fault that you guys won't give that up. It's your fault that you won't give that up. Wow. It's not my fault that I keep fucking up at these games. And the fucking whole gamer journalist meme exists on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter/X, and on YouTube. That's not my fault. That's your fault. And the game's fault. But it's also your fault. Because he would be able to wipe his tears with more DoorDash and whatever he can get at Total Wine if the money was there to support it. To comfort him, if you will. Yikes. Yikes. I'm bringing that back. Because I'm petty. Just because I'm so fucking petty. I'm bringing that back.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. And that's not me. That's not my content. That's the viewing audience has changed. The attitude of human culture has changed in the last 10 to 15 years since I've been a creator. And I have to...
Human culture has failed because no one wants to sit down and watch a narrative-based/paced game by Darkside Phil. Human society has failed because people won't sit around and watch DSP play video games. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And you can see those Patrick Star emotes are fucking hurting him right now. God damn, bro. They comboing that shit.
Recognize those changes and I have to adapt to them. I can't just pretend like they haven't happened and be like...
Boy, that's like some Long John Silver's Captain D's type shit. Just comboing all that shit together. Take all that.
Yeah, let's go play a 60-hour visual novel and just hope for the best. No, I know the best isn't going to happen. I know...
Or any of one of your mom and pop fish shops and fish and chicken shops in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Usually the best food anyway.
Know that the audience is different now. And you have to kind of cater to that audience, you know?
Wow. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. DSP yet again speaking honestly about how the audience, his audience, has failed him. And that's the reason why he's not successful. They are holding him back. They are preventing him from being great and whatnot. So, oh my gosh. Okay, my thoughts. My thoughts is DSP is pathetic as shit, to be honest with you. It's going to be a slow burn from here on out, but it's been a slow burn for a number of years. The writer's room is kind of, or the creative team is, they gave us a banger last month. So I kind of expect things to slow up a little bit leading in deep into summer. We'll see. We'll see. As gas prices go up, as the cost of living goes up, as the price of food and everything else goes up, which innately happens. And there's even less money and then eventually even less viewership to be there. Then that's when I'm really expecting the excuses to come out. So I'm really looking forward to that. You know what I'm saying? Or when people prioritize, you know, their summer vacation with their friends, family, and all that bullshit over fucking dealing with DSP's nonsense. That's going to be really telling on how he deals. So I'll be anxious to see how that plays out. In any case, the reason why DSP doesn't play certain types of games is he just doesn't have the mental dexterity to do it anymore. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to understand, it's not just him getting money from these people. He needs these people to hold him through shit too. And there's just not enough people to do it. And remember, this is how you don't play is always on the back of DSP's mind. You know what I'm saying? Top 10 worst moments of DSP is always on the back of DSP's mind. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if the top 10 worst moments of the month, big ups to Agent Proper yet again, if those things are starting to make its way over to fucking the Snort Fort. He's starting to look at that stuff. So there's a lot that he's competing against as it pertains to games and whatever. It's yet again, that's one of the reasons why we didn't get 4s or 6, at least not at the moment. He knows he's gonna look stupid, whether he's playing on a controller or the fucking steering wheel, which he's been hyping that shit for the better part of a year or some shit, right? So he's been building up for the better part of a year on playing that. That's the reason why he bought it. He didn't buy it just for truck sims. He bought it for all kinds of different racing games and shit. It's not going to happen, or at least not going to happen right away. Not until Forza dies down and he feels that it's safe to do it. And if he does get clowned on, there won't be a whole lot of traction. Which, That's not going to work, but you know, a pig can dream. In any case, thanks you guys for listening in. I very much appreciate it. This has been, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease, so on and so forth. I'll catch you I'll catch you guys for the next one of these. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, don't be a dent. If nothing else, don't be a dent. And you know, have a good summer. Try to enjoy your summer as best you can. Take care of yourselves, people. Later.